into the Optimus NFL show. I am your host, Brad Bolt. Usually my co-host, Dan O'Connell, is here with me, but he's too busy celebrating the Queensland State of Origin win, and he's on his way to a Scott Fishbowl draft that's live in Australia. So I thought I might give some guy who's a little bit of an upstart in the industry, just give him a bit of a go and see what he was like. So I've brought in Danny Heifetz from The Ringer. How are you, Danny?
I'm good. I'm thrilled to be your second string Dan on this show. And I also, every time I come here, I just love how hard your intro music goes. I wish my name was Brad Bolt. It really is comes off the tongue a little better than Danny Heifetz, but I'll have to roll with Danny Heifetz, I guess.
Hey, look, in the future, if you would like to change your name to Brad Bolt for your show, I'm more than happy for you to use it to start off the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Brad Bolt. That might be the only time that I hear my name on that show, I think.
Well, no, because you're also the only Yankees Panthers Australian fan that I know of. Maybe there's like dozens of you, but the Yankees hat, McCaffrey jersey in the back. It's just, everything about it captures me.
Perfect. See, that's what I look for. I look for uniqueness. That's my brand, is unique. So we are lucky. I've got Danny here. This is the third time you've been on this show now, so you are pretty much not only friend of the program, you are pretty much now the, I guess you'd say, a core member of the team, we might as well say, being it's your third time on here. So we had actually been speaking about this a few months ago when the draft was on, and then life got in the way, and my wife and I decided to have a baby in that time. So, we've been a little bit busy. So now we've had this chance to come back to the draft. So I'm going to start, Danny, now that it's been a couple months, I would like to know which team has had your favorite draft pick, so overall draft pick out of all of the teams. So I know you did a lot with the Ringer Draft Show, it was called, and now it's the Fantasy Football Show. But what out of all of your research and working with DK and looking at stuff with you and Craig, all that, what team had the best draft in your mind?
Well, so since I work for Bill Simmons, I'm contractually obligated to say the New England Patriots, but no, I do actually like the Patriots draft. I didn't like their free agency where the Patriots spent a ton of money just to get better, that's part of just having a new coaching staff. Mike Vrabel wants a certain kind of guy, a certain kind of culture, but I like the draft. Will Campbell, the tackle at LSU, Ohio State running back Trevion Henderson, Kyle Williams, who I think is going to break the streak of New England receivers in the middle rounds that just totally suck. I just think they got, I hate this cliche, but I'm going to say it. They got football guys. They got guys who are good at football. They got guys that there are questions about, Will Campbell's arm strength. Arm length. There's question. I don't think he's going to throw, but there's questions about, Kyle Williams. I don't know if he's the most explosive player, but to me, those three guys, there's no question whether, were they good at football? Did they succeed on the field? Did the coaches and teammates like playing with them? There's no questions about that. Will Campbell's all SEC as a freshman. Trevion Henderson was basically the captain of that Ohio State championship team. Kyle Williams probably the best guy getting open in the draft. They need an offense around Drake May, and they can block and protect and get open. And functionally speaking, maybe there's other teams that had better drafts, teams that made progress toward a Super Bowl. But when I look at the Patriots, I hate saying this phrase, but they understood the assignment, which was, don't let Drake May get the crap kicked out of him. And so they got a bunch of guys that are going to help Drake May. And so it's hard for me to not pick New England.
And I think, too, when they had such hatred, it feels like, for Gerard Mayo last year, anything was going to be better than what happened in the previous 12 months, I would say.
It's funny. And again, I know I work for one of the most famous Patriots fans in the world, but it's going to sound like I'm blowing smoke. But really, I really think that in a really weird, messed up way, this all worked out very well for New England, because I think in any industry, you don't want to be the guy that follows the guy. You don't want to be the guy that follows Bob Iger at Disney. You don't want to come on stage after the Beatles, and you don't want to be the coach after Bill Belichick, because it's just hard. And I really think in a weird way, it has worked out incredibly well for New England that Mike Vrabel does not have to follow Bill Belichick. Mike Vrabel follows Gerard Mayo, but still gets Drake May. While it was a weird journey here, I actually don't know if there could have been a better transition into the post-Belichick era, even if nobody liked the post-Belichick transition. In a roundabout way, I think they're very set up for success over the next half decade.
that being the guy after the guy is the same reason why I personally didn't go and buy the ringer from Bill, because I thought, look, that's going to be way too hard. Let's let a company like Spotify build it and like buy it, and then I'll look at it from there if Spotify ever decide to sell. But same sort of thing. That's working the same sort of theme there, I think. But what I was gonna, so they're a team that you like. What was a team that left you scratching your head a little bit in the draft? Was there a team that you sort of didn't really understand their draft picks?
I mean, dude. Well, man, I feel talking up the Patriots and talking down on the Falcons like it's 28-3. I mean, the Falcons trade. Just to remind people, the Falcons basically traded. They took Jalen Walker, who was a pass rusher at Georgia, who somehow Atlanta had not really taken pass rushers from Georgia. I don't know how much of your audience is Australian, but the University of Georgia is the best college football team. And in the same place as Atlanta, and they don't take any of the Georgia players. Even like the Eagles just won the Super Bowl by taking half the Georgia defense, and the Falcons never end up with any of these Georgia defenders who are all from Atlanta anyway. And so that's just a funny subplot. So Atlanta finally takes this Georgia pass rusher, but then they give up next year's first rounder to come up and get a different pass rusher. That was very widely panned. I think deservedly so, because the Falcons desperately needed a pass rush, and then now they're overcorrecting and only getting pass rushers. I have questions because now they have two 240-pound first-round pick pass rushers, and it's like, how are you going to stop the run now? We'll see. I think it's very simplistically, like, it better work. Like, it's that simple. Mm-hmm. It's like this guy that traded up for James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. He better be good. Like, if James Pierce Jr. is an above-average pass rusher, it'll be fine. Anything other than that, or the Falcons missing the playoffs, and it's kind of a disastrous trade that just, to me, is what desperate teams do. But I think that's the obvious one. I think I'm the only person out here. I thought the Minnesota draft was really bad. I don't know if you care about that, but I can go into depth on that if you want. But I don't see a lot of criticism. I think the Vikings did a really bad job.
Yeah, no, go into it. I'm more than happy to go over that.
So the Vikings, the GM, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, has a reputation as this analytically oriented guy. And I would say I don't like either of the Vikings' last two drafts. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy, will see if he's good, and it's probably worth doing what they did to take him. The other thing the Vikings did was they gave up a bunch of future picks, including a trade before the draft with the Texans, where they gave up capital. But during the draft, they traded up like 7 spots, and they gave up like a future second to take Dallas Turner, who was the defensive end pass rusher out of Alabama. And so one of the fundamental theories of the NFL draft is no one knows what you're doing. No one can predict the future. So if you're taking players in roughly the same tier, you probably want to just have as many picks as possible. And so the reason you do that is what the Vikings did. We don't know. It's been one season. Who knows? But they gave up future picks to take Dallas Turner. And the guys who went after Dallas Turner were Jared Verse, who ended up being like the defensive rookie of the year, and then Chop Robinson, who looks like the second best defensive end in this class, to take Dallas Turner, who looked okay as a rookie. So I didn't like that. That to me is the epitome of what you don't do. This year, the Vikings had, I believe, the fewest picks in the entire draft. They took a guard, Donovan Jackson, out of Ohio State. You're telling me that they wouldn't move 7 or 8 spots back with the Giants and pick up extra picks and hoping Donovan Jackson's still there. They wouldn't move back. They wouldn't move 10 picks back with the Giants to move up. They wouldn't move 20 picks back with the Falcons to get a future first next year. So they're turning down all these trades from the teams right before them, right after them made these big trades. The Vikings didn't do any of that. All that to say, Donovan Jackson as a guard better be good, because if not, they turned down a first-round pick to take a guard, which is kind of crazy to me. So that's all. It's like, look, they need an interior offensive lineman. The Vikings kind of got knocked out of the playoffs. Darnold played poorly, but because they didn't have a guard, the interior offensive line is bad. But my God, if Donovan Jackson's not a starter for the Vikings, they literally could have just flipped him for a first-round pick. And I can't remember a team taking a guard instead of taking a first-round pick. So anyway, I just think it's very strange. I don't know if anyone cares about anything I just said, but that one made me really mad. I know this is why you brought me on, just because of my sexy takes about offensive guards taking 24th overall or whatever.
No, I like it though, because the thing is too, it's not just that you said, as you mentioned, that after Dallas Turner in the 2024 draft that the Jared Verse and Chop Robinson went afterwards, but you also had after them Amarius Mims, Troy Fautanu, Quinion Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., which I know that's not really a need because you've got Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. I get that. But Terrion Arnold, Jordan Morgan, Graham Barton, Xavier Worthy, Tyler Guyton, Nate Wiggins. Like, these are all guys that I probably would have thought would have been better suited for what Minnesota needed than.
They're all probably better than Dallas Turner.
Yeah, I would probably pick most of them over Dallas Turner. And that, he could come out this year and become an absolute stud and look like a bit of a fool for it. But in the moment, as of right now, I would much rather have pretty much every one of those other guys that I listed over Dallas Turner, So that's me. I'm the same as you. I wasn't a big fan of the Minnesota draft either myself. Okay, so one of the things too, we've heard on the fantasy football show, the draft show, you shared your misery of being a New York Football Giants fan. How did you find their draft and free agency? What as a fan? So let's take the Danny Heifetz, I do this as a job aspect out of it. As a football fan, what did you think of the Giants?
It's a good question. I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the part of separating the professional thing because now this is going to become like therapy. But the Giants becoming the worst team in the NFL coincides with me becoming a professional, which has now been a decade, which both of those feel too long. But I mean this. The Giants haven't been good since I started doing this. They had that one playoff run, and you could argue the playoff run was the worst season they've had because it derailed the entire everything they were doing and it wasted 3 seasons. And so. Anyway, I guess to your point, I actually wondered for a long time, do I love the Giants less because I'm a pro? Like, does doing this job for a living siphon my joy from watching the team? And it took me a long time to realize, no, the team is siphoning my joy from watching the team. They're so bad. They're so bad. It's awful. And so to get to your question, I am very mixed because I would go a step further back, and I think it's their decision to keep Brian Daboll as head coach and Joe Schoen the GM, which I am very torn on. But fundamentally, bad teams cycle through GMs and coaches over and over and over and over again. And I know people are upset with like the Pittsburgh Steelers for being 9 or 10 wins every year, but the reality is the Steelers and Ravens have success. The Ravens have had one owner and 2 general managers in 30 years and 2 head coaches. And the Steelers have had 1 owner, 2 GMs, 3 head coaches since 1969. And the Cleveland Browns have had 2 owners, 12 GMs. I think they're up to 14 head coaches and 34 quarterbacks. And they're the Cleveland Browns. And the fish rots from the head. So that's a very, 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 very roundabout way of saying I get wanting to keep Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, but there's 2 things. I think you either have to fire Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen and start fresh, or you kind of have to commit to them for like a 2-year window because now that, and I know that that's not what you asked, but to me, it's how I view it. Because now they've taken a first-round quarterback. Free agency and everything, you get Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. If we're being honest, that's because they didn't know how the draft would shake out. Like, Russell Wilson is not in their plans beyond November. So when you let Brian, this is the long answer. The short answer is I like what the Giants did a lot. I love Abdul Carter. He's a makeup pick. In drafting, it's like, don't scout the helmet. But you know what? When Abdul Carter goes to Penn State and wears Micah Parsons' number and wants to model his game off Micah Parsons, yeah, you know what? Abdul Carter is Micah Parsons. The Giants gave the Cowboys Micah Parsons. Like, the Giants did not take Micah Parsons. He went to Dallas. Abdul Carter is our Micah Parsons makeup. The Darius Alexander, the 3rd-round pick they got, defensive tackle, is awesome. I like what the Giants did. But the important guy is Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback. Like, that's the guy. And so my very, very, very long answer, more than you bit off more than you can chew, is I hope that the Giants give Brian Daboll time to put Jackson Dart's development first, because I will be very upset if the short-term needs of if the team starts 0-5 and everyone's hurt and they throw Jackson Dart in before he's ready or before the team can protect him, because Brian Daboll thinks, well, if the kid looks good, I'll keep my job, and if the kid looks bad, I'm going to get fired anyway. I don't want that situation. And so I think that there's a dangerous mix here where you want the coach to be thinking in a 3-year win, like about what's best for the team, not what's best for himself. So I know pressure makes diamonds, but like also pressure makes coal, which no one talks about. And so I guess the short answer is if Dable is able to develop Dart, I will be very happy. And honestly, no matter how bad Dable's been, if Brian Dable's fired in October, I'll be very upset because that to me suggests that they let him make this franchise-altering decision without anything approaching a timeline to alter the franchise. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's where I'm at. I hope Jackson Dart's good. I fear that they let Brian Dable shop for the groceries, but don't actually trust him to make dinner.
Yeah. Well, this one I didn't prep you on, but what has been the most memorable? Now, this doesn't have to be good memorable. What's been the most memorable moment in the last couple of years for the Giants? Is it the third down tush push from their own 3-yard line? Is it letting Saquon go? Or is it actually the Giants having killed any possibility of any other team in the NFL doing an off-season hard knocks after what happened by letting Saquon go and having that all go to air?
Honestly, the latter is the legacy of the Giants in the last 10 years. The legacy is the Giants killed off-season hard knocks, which is too bad because it actually was the best version of hard knocks by far. It was way more interesting to see that, and we'll never see it again.
100%.
The most memorable thing is the Saquon thing to the general public. I don't remember that because, frankly, I blocked all of it out. I've repressed the memories. They're in some, I don't know, whatever childhood trauma I have is in a trunk now in my brain with just like them on the phone telling Saquon to kick rocks. But no, for me personally, the worst memory is that oh my God, I'll never forget QB sneaking from their own 3-yard line. But no, the Saquon thing, I feel like I'm like coming out of a trauma. I'm not crazy, right? Like that was one of the worst stretches any fan base has ever had. Like the Eagles are our biggest rival and most hated rival. Like I can't stress enough how much New York is so much closer to Philadelphia than New York is closer to Dallas. Like Dallas is really far away. Philadelphia is like a 2-hour drive. There are so many Eagles fans and Giants fans overlapping all over the eastern coast of the United States. And literally, can I curse on this?
Yeah,
can I say like vile stuff?
But this is Australia. This is where some people use the C word as a term of endearment.
Oh, well, good, great. Can I use a different C word? Does the word cuck translate to Australia?
Oh, yeah, no, it translates.
We got cucked. Like the Giants' best player left and then literally had arguably the best season any running back has ever had for their division rival. And everyone was like, wow, this is the most probably, I think Saquon, tell me if I'm wrong. I think Saquon is in the 90, not just football or like any sport. I think Saquon's in the 99th percentile of athleticism and likableness as a human being. I really think like sometimes there are special teamers that they're like, he's a great guy. Like Saquon is the rare guy that's the best player any of the players have ever seen, but also everyone's like, but he's the nicest guy ever. And they let him go. And as I'm talking it, I'm not over this still, Brad. Like this is still real. I can't believe that it was literally like you sit up at night and you have these anxiety dreams or stress things. And my co-host, Danny Kelly, says this all the time. His dad told him this, 90% of the stuff you worry about never happens. And the Saquon thing was the 1%, the 1 in 10,000 most catastrophic stress dream you ever have. You're like, well, that would never happen. And it happened in real life. And that I hated it.
Yeah, well, put it this way. My wife, she is not really an NFL fan at all. But if I'm watching something, she'll every once in a while she'll pop her head up and she'll ask a question or whatever. When Saquon did the backwards hurdle, she saw that and she was showing me on Instagram. She's like, have you seen this? What this dude can do? Yeah. I was like, yeah. She's like, who is it? And I was like, Saquon. And she was like, we were talking about something. And then I think another ad popped up, one of those things where they show, oh, remember the off season when the Giants did this and they played the clip from Hard Knocks. And she's like, wait, a team let him go? can you explain why a team let him go if he can do stuff like that? And it was one of those things I was like, even my wife, who's not an NFL fan, was sitting there going, that makes no sense. Why would they let their best player go? It just doesn't make any sense.
It's just, man, it's so, you're right. Yeah, that's a good example. The thing I think about with Saquon is that play in particular, the reverse hurdle. I think, it's funny. You do this job, you talk about stuff in the moment. You're always a prisoner of the moment. But I really think that will go down as like, because in part the Eagles won the Super Bowl, like the single most lasting play of the last 5+ years. And I don't know if this has any impact on Australia, but there's this famous thing from well before I was born where Bo Jackson, Bo Jackson, who was briefly the best running back in the NFL, played, I think, center field for the Kansas City Royals. And he caught this ball. He ran up the wall like Spider-Man, like he did parkour before anyone used the word parkour. And he ran like 4 steps sideways on the wall. Like literally he ran up a wall and caught a baseball to rob a home run and then dropped down and then like went back and played for the Raiders like 3 days later in a different sport. And that to me is the comparison where I just, the reverse hurdle, like if you had said 2 plays earlier, whether Saquon, what he did was possible, I think many NFL players would have been like, that's impossible. You can't jump over someone backward. Like I think the NFL, when players who do the sport every day don't believe that it happened, that's the highest level.
It's one of those things that you see something like, if someone was to explain that to you, your first thought is, wow, Madden's gone a bit nuts if they're letting people
like that's a mod.
In Madden. That's someone's found a code that they can break. But anyway.
Sorry to derail you. I know I can't. I'm sorry. I can't filter myself on the Giants. I hate them. I hate me.
Perfectly. The only thing that we've spoken more about than the Giants was before we came on air was talking about time zones here in Australia compared to what you thought they might have been to what they actually are at the moment. So that's the only thing that we've spoken more about than the Giants.
Yeah, really briefly, can you explain to me? I thought time zones was really simple. And if you think about it, it's one of mankind's greatest achievements. We can't agree on currencies or languages or anything, but we actually have a system of time that mostly everyone uses. I thought it was really simple. 24 hours in a day because of the sun, and we split the world into 24 hours with these spheres of 24 hours, and that was it. And then we scheduled this, and I learned that you're a half hour, also like 12 hours, but you're not 11 hours off from me or 12 hours off from me. You're like 12 and a half hours off from me. So how does that work?
So currently at the moment it's 12:08 in the morning now.
And for me it's 10:38 in the morning.
Yeah, so it's Saturday morning now for me, technically.
And it's 10:38 Friday morning for me.
Yeah. So the thing that I've got a few mates who are American, and they would get there and they'd go, oh, right. So if it's one of them, I'm sure he'll be listening on this. Shout out Nate Polvo, who's one of my close mates. He lives in Colorado, but him and I trying to organize time to chat with each other. He would sit there and he'd go, right. So if I'm in Colorado and you're in Australia, that means it's this time right now. And I was like, no, we're half an hour back from that. You're thinking of Melbourne and Sydney. We're half an hour back because I'm in the middle of Australia. I'm in South Australia. And so he'd go, okay, so it's this. What about there's this place called Perth? How far behind are they from you? And you're like, oh, they're 2.5 hours behind us in terms of time. So he would just be like, what the hell is going on? How can I get in touch? What day is it? Is it October yet? Or what's going on?
Why is there the half hour though? Because is that a thing in other places? I just thought every time zone was an hour off. Why are you half an hour from a place?
So it's something to do. I'm not going to claim that I'm a master in knowing why it's half an hour difference between the eastern seaboard of Australia and the central Australia, and then 2.5 hours to Western Australia side. But pretty much Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania are all half an hour ahead of Australia, the way that the world turns. And then where we get to in South Australia, where I am, then we're half an hour in time behind. So pretty much now, if anyone was in Melbourne listening to this, it would now be 12:40 a.m. if you're in Melbourne listening to this. Whereas, Yeah, it's one of these things. It confuses the shit out of people because a lot of them people will go, oh, well, what's the time then if you're in New Zealand? Which is a lot of people also confuse that New Zealand and Australia are the same country, which they're not. But New Zealand at the moment, if I look at the time in New Zealand, so they're not too far from Australia, but that time in New Zealand at the moment, they're 2.5 hours ahead of us. So it's 2:40 a.m. in New
But
Zealand.
your time zone, you were something and a half hour off every other time zone in the world.
Yeah.
That seems super inconvenient.
It is. It is because like I've got so I'll see if I could on my phone. It's a bit hard to see, but I've got different time zones. So I've got LA, Denver, New York, Honolulu, because so I've got Honolulu just because it was that's where my wife and I went on our honeymoon.
Wait, hold on. I can beat you.
Yeah.
I just Googled this. There are some places in New Zealand that are 45 minutes off the rest of the world. Which is brutal.
That's just gonna really mess you up, the 45 minutes.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Well, yeah, that explains it because you kept explaining what time it was where you were, and I was like, that sounds wrong.
So sorry, we didn't mean to interrupt our time zone chat with football talk, but we'll but no, it's one of those things too. The other thing that I laugh at too is that a lot of Americans that I know assume that Australia is just a really small place compared to America, and it's really not that small in comparison. So America's the 4th largest country in the world, and Australia's the 6th in land mass.
Well, I feel like that's a function of two things. One, just general American ignorance about the rest of the world, which obviously is ignorant. I would also say Americans, well, no, it's just general, like, America's far from... Two oceans thing cuts both ways. So, but also I would just say that's the flattening of the maps, And so it's the same reason that like Greenland seems huge on a flat map. Yeah. It's like the other one is on a map. Africa and South America seem like roughly the same size, which is like super not the case. Africa is massive. And Australia, I think it's the same thing where you're like Alaska. Also, Alaska's, I mean, I think I could get this wrong, but Alaska alone is bigger than like a quarter of the United States continental. So maps are also confusing as well.
Yeah.
But I think Australia gets gypped by the flattened map.
So pretty much what we're discovering is that time and maps are difficult.
Dude, times and map, which is what we're talking about. We're dancing around dimensions. That's really what we're kind of dancing around,
Exactly. I'll get you a couple. I've actually got a couple of football questions for you, not just time zone ones.
Thank you. So much easier.
So, I say that, but 2026, there is an international game coming to Australia. It's going to be played at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, so half an hour ahead of me, as we've just discovered.
It's the Rams, right?
The Rams are playing. I don't know. They haven't announced their team, obviously, yet, who it's going to be. But when we spoke 12 months ago when you came on this show, we joked that if there was ever a game in Australia that you three fantasy football guys would come out to Australia and I would be able to catch up with you guys and take you to an AFL football game and then go to one of these. There will be AFL football games on a day or two, either before or after the NFL game. So the question is, are you coming to Australia? And if so, how long are you going to be there for? And would you like me to show you some of the good places to go and drink wine and beers and stuff?
I couldn't even. Yeah, we'll do it. No, I don't. With the obvious caveat, I am not in control of these things, and I can't actually make decisions. And also, honestly, I don't know. It's funny because I don't even know when we would leave because I think it takes a full day to get there, right?
I think it just depends on where you fly from. So my wife and I, when we went to Hawaii, we flew out from Sydney, and it was a 9.5-hour flight from Sydney to Hawaii. So I don't know how long it would take to get from, say, like New York to Hawaii or LA to Hawaii or whatever. So it would be whatever it takes for you to get there plus 9.5 hours.
So with the caveat that I'm not in control of the budget, the logistics, actually greenlighting, be able to do it, couldn't speak to how we would go to the other side of the world and back during the NFL season, who would pay for it, how we would do it, how we would cover any of the other games. Yeah, fuck it, we'll do it. Sure. Done.
Yeah, perfect. I'm glad we've sorted that. How about what I'll do is I'll clip this for you, and then you can just send it to Bill and just say, hey, look, we're huge in Australia. They want us out there. We need to be there.
I think honestly, I'll just get stuck trying to explain what time zone is going to be into Bill, and then I'll run out of time, and then we'll never even get to the point.
Oh, that's a pity. But so with the international games, what do you actually think? Because I see a lot of pushback from Americans wondering why are there London games, why are there Germany games, and especially now the big uproar when it was announced they're going to play in Australia. Why would you go to Australia? Is the next? What's your thought?
Well, I actually have a lot of thoughts on this, and I will caveat this entire conversation with, I was a business minor in my undergraduate degree in college, so business expert here. But no, I actually do think it's an interesting question. At the risk of sounding like an idiot, I think the NFL is on the verge of lowercase p perfecting the domestic U.S. product, where the NFL has. There's no end of history. There's no end of time. However, the NFL is on the verge of getting the domestic product to more or less exactly where they want it, which is an 18-game season expanded that will start after Labor Day weekend in the United States and end on President's Day, which is a 3-day weekend, which would both get them the most. And again, they think of this as a product. It's advertising, inventory, so 18 times 32 for the regular season. They expanded the playoffs, so they have more playoff games. They're able to get playoffs on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. They've expanded to Saturdays in after college football ends. So now they've owning Saturdays during December. They have bodied the NBA out of Thursday Night Football. They have bodied the NBA out of Christmas. They're taking Christmas Eve, which at least in the United States is like not a television holiday. The NFL, on the days they put it there, make it a television holiday. They have also, can't stress enough how much they've ripped Christmas from the NBA, and in the process made Netflix an NFL partner, which is incredible. They've made Amazon an NFL partner on Black Friday, which is the day after Thanksgiving in the United States. So they have Thanksgiving, which is the biggest TV watching day of the year, basically in America for sports. And they're taking Black Friday with Amazon, which is another $2 trillion company. They're getting, so they have all these. So they're taking U.S. holidays. They're taking Saturdays. They're doing playoffs on Mondays. They're taking over the days of the week. They took Sunday from Jesus. You know what I mean? They have taken all this space. And frankly, I think that they're on the verge of, there's not much real estate left in the United States of America for football. And now the growth, like every other business, is moving the somewhat perfected domestic product internationally. There is a bunch of international rights stuff I don't want to pretend to understand, but as far as I understand it, honestly, it sounds a little colonial, but frankly, the teams have spheres of influence, honestly, almost like the 1600s with Portugal and Spain splitting the world, Portugal and England splitting the world. Like the Chiefs and Panthers just get Germany, right? The Dolphins just get Spain. That's actually how it works, which is crazy because that's how it was 400 years ago, but that's the idea. So that's why the Chiefs go to Munich, because the Kansas City Chiefs have the international rights there. And so that is the thing, is can they actually spread this game around the world? It's funny because domestically they're hedging their bets with flag football because they're worried Americans will stop playing football. So it's twofold if you think about it. Obviously they want the audience, but the audience also eventually could become, in a couple generations, not anytime soon, but a couple generations later, it becomes an international pipeline the same way the NBA now. You have SGA winning the NBA MVP from Canada. You have Wembanyama from France. I think the NFL is hoping that by the time your kids are having kids, maybe the next wave of NFL, maybe one day there will be a quarterback from Germany or Australia or whatever, but they're planting those seeds now. I don't expect that the NFL expects a harvest in 10 years or even 20 years, but that is eventually the 2-decade outlook for the NFL. All the growth is going to have to come internationally. And so that to me is just, that is really what they're doing, is they are just fomenting. They just want kids at these games and those kids to grow up as NFL fans, and they want their kids to be normalized as NFL fans from the jump.
Well, it's interesting too because like there is I'm not exactly sure. I can't give you numbers as to how big the Australian NFL fan market is, but there is a large portion of us who do the insane thing, and we get up at 2:30 a.m. on a Monday morning to watch the Sunday slate of games, or slightly early, 2 o'clock in the morning,
which is unbelievable. And I want to give you credit. That is more effort than I put in as a professional. Like, I got to tell you, like, the idea that you're watching games at 2 a.m. on Monday and then you go to work and do your job on Monday, like, that is a crazy amount of passion. Like, that is more passion than most fans are putting in America.
So pretty much what I end up doing is I get up in the morning, I watch as much of the games as I can before I need to go to work. I go to work, I then listen to the radio broadcasts of games if I can, depending on obviously what I'm doing at work for the day. Then when I get home, instead of doing the normal thing and going, maybe I'd have a nap or something because I've been up since 2 a.m., I'm that sort of person who then goes, well, what did I miss from all these other games? And then we'll go and start watching the 40-minute condensed highlights of the games so I can catch up on them. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, so now it's 10 o'clock at night. I've worked all day. I've been up since 2 a.m. I better get some sleep. You get up the next day. It's Monday night football for you. It's Tuesday.
Oh my
God,
that's okay, so trippy.
And then you go. Excuse me. You go.
What time is Monday Night Football for you? It's Tuesday morning, right? It's
Tuesday morning, about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, around there.
That's like Wimbledon here. That's funny.
Yeah, but you sit there and you go, okay, well, if that game's at 10 a.m. and I'm up early enough, there are some games that I didn't get to the night before, so I might watch them in the morning before I go to work this time, and you just sort of end up that's how you end up doing.
Well, it's funny you say
podcast
that.
Based in Australia.
Well, it's funny you say that because for Australia specifically, it's so funny. I just thought of this. This might be a very stupid thing to say, but it's funny in a way. I am everything does come around, and I always kind of believe tape delayed sports would never work again because of the internet. However, I actually think we're in this algorithmic time where you actually are weirdly at a point where you can check your phone and not see stuff if you don't want to, only sometimes in a weird way. Like, I actually think that's a whole other conversation. But the point being, what you're describing, mass consumption in Australia, is actually, you could come back around to like the 70s where the NBA finals were on tape delay. Like the Miracle on Ice and the Olympics were on tape delay, and they held it to prime time. And what you're describing, and maybe this would work, maybe this is crazy, but part of me is like, is it insane really that, if you want to find out the score of Sunday Night Football, you can look it up. But maybe it would become part of the culture that, well, maybe the night games, it's wrong. Maybe basically, could you tape delay it and put it on at normal hours, quote unquote normal Australian hours? Do you think that could have could work?
You could, because the part of it that will work is that because it's not the national sport, it's not really televised, like it's not really spoken about. So like if you were to flick on your TV now and you were to go through and you start scrolling through, if you end up on one of like your local channels and they might say, hey, in the baseball last night, this is what happened, and you see the score and you see the highlights and you're like, oh, what? That doesn't happen here. You don't flick on your TV during the day and go to one of the local channels and they go, and we head to Detroit now where the Lions have just beaten the Bears, and you don't see any of it. So you really could put that on like a tape delay where you have it at a more reasonable hour for some people. And I do know plenty of people who do that, who stay off Twitter or whatever for the day on a Monday, so then they don't see any of the scores, and then they get home that night and they watch their team play. So then that way it's like them watching the game live, but then they can just do the thing that a lot of people would like to do sometimes and skip all the ads.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. But I won't bet against the NFL in the long, I'm not going to get against the NFL succeeding in business. So I do think I am cautiously optimistic about a growing international fervor, even though it feels far away. I think a lot of things people said would never happen have happened. So I've seen crazier things than the NFL actually getting an international foothold.
and you'll get to experience it firsthand when you all come out next year for the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So, exactly. So swings it. We're circling back around now. What we are going to do now is, I think, maybe one of your favorite things that you do when you come on this show, and it's the 2 Aussie Towns and a lie. I've got 2 of them for you. Two games. So
this is my favorite thing.
So I've got. So these are the first 3: quality knob, prominent knob, or boing gully. So 2 of them are real, and 1 is the lie. So quality knob, prominent knob, or boing gully.
I think quality knob is the lie.
Boing gully is the lie. Prominent knob and quality knob are actual towns.
Dude, what?
All of these places are very small places.
What is a knob?
Well, they're both spelled differently. One's spelled K-N-O-B, like a doorknob, and the other is just N-O-B. So these are actual places.
Dude.
So, okay, this one will make this along the same lines, just because you get a laugh out of these. So we've got foul bottom, mossy nipple bend, or boobs flat.
Okay. If you invented mossy nipple bend, kudos to you. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assume you did not come up with mossy nipple bend.
I did not come up with mossy nipple bend.
No, that's
a place in Australia called Mossy Nipple Bend.
What the? Okay, so that means you came up with boobs flat or foul bottom, and I think foul bottom. I think you made up foul bottom.
You're right. I did. There's a place in South Australia called Foul Bay, but there's not a place in Australia called Foul Bottom, but there is a place called Boobs Flat. See,
what a magical continent you hail from.
See, just actually, maybe you should go and tell Bill that. Just be like, hey, we're not going to go cover. We're not going to cover the football. We're going to go to Boobs Flat. And we want to go see Mossy Nipple Bend, and we want to go to these places.
You want me to expense a trip to Boobs Flat? You want me to send that through the Spotify expense system? A Boobs Flat and Mossy Nipple Bend.
Looking at some of these in prominent knob and quality knob, they're going. What are these strip clubs you guys are going to?
I don't think it would go well.
Well, these are last. So these ones are. I've got 5 words here. And it's just to see if you can guess what they actually mean. So it's like Aussie slang as to what it is in America. So first one is ankle biter. What would be an ankle biter?
Maybe a small dog, maybe like a toddler, like a 2-year-old's an ankle biter, or is that just a derogatory? Yeah. Okay. Oh, you get that right?
Small child.
Yeah, let's go.
So we're 1 for 1. So we're good. So what's a bottle O?
Bottle O?
Yeah, bottle O.
A soda?
Not quite.
A beer?
It's in America you'd call it a liquor store.
Oh, okay. I see that. Okay. Oh.
So so this one is interesting. Whoop whoop. So I'll use it in a sentence for you. Dave will be back in a week. He's gone whoop whoop.
Vacation.
He's just gone far away. So yeah, vacation you could say. We'll say in the middle of nowhere, he's out in whoop whoop.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Crook. If you say to someone, I'm a bit crook.
A big crook or a bit crook?
A bit crook.
A bit crook.
If you're a bit crook, what are you?
High.
Not
drunk.
Quite. You're sick. You're unwell. If you're a bit crook, you're unwell. Which, if you can hear any wheezing, that's me at the moment. I'm a bit crook, but we're powering through. And last one, spewing.
Is this like old slang or new slang? Because spewing sounds like something Gen Z kids would say, like you're spewing knowledge.
No, this is older. This is older.
No, okay, because I feel like spewing sounds like a Gen Z thing, but spewing, so what would the older version be? Spewing. Throwing up.
Well, technically that's right. You get two, like there's two meanings for it in Australia. So throwing up is one of them, and the other one is if you were to say like, oh, is Danny gonna make it tonight? No, he's not. Spewing like, damn it, that
Okay.
sucks, pretty much. So there you go. Now you see you're a full-fledged Aussie now.
So
Like,
so I'm a full-fledged Aussie. So what you're saying is the other Dan doesn't have to come back because he went to what?
Yeah, exactly. And you're spewing that you don't get to catch up with him.
Exactly.
You might have
and you're going to go deal with your ankle biter.
Yeah.
And then when we're in Australia, go to the bottle-o.
Perfect.
Boom. I can do this. I'm a natural.
See, third time on the show, the third time we've played this type of game, and you're pretty much naturalized now. I'll send you your Aussie flag in the post.
There you go. Thank you.
Well, what I'll do is I'll leave it there because I don't want to take up all of your day, and we've got this. It just gives you another reason to come back next time for a fourth time, so we can do more weird town names and stuff like that.
Fourth time will be in person, live after an Australian rules football game.
Exactly.
And the draft where they keep the teams with the fathers, the rights to the kids. Yeah, we'll do it live at the Australian rules football draft.
Perfect. I love it. Danny, have you got anything that you would like to get out there for anyone that is listening, whether it be Australia or in America, that you would like to plug? Because I know you've got your YouTube channel that's out there now, which I subscribed day one.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I do the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. So I swear my co-hosts, unlike Brad, usually cut me off way sooner when into the Giants talk. But no, we do the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. So I'll be the trillionth person to say wherever you get your podcasts, like YouTube, Spotify. We work for Spotify directly, but they're everywhere. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. But I think we do a fun show. So check it out. If you didn't hate me, I think you would also like our show. So, yeah.
It is one of it's my regular. There are a few that I have regulars that I don't miss any of. So, and this is one of them. My favorite thing, my absolute favorite thing on your show is you do the goodbyes and you thank Lorne, and then I look and I'm like, oh, it's over. And then I look, oh wait, there's still 17 minutes of the episode. Yeah. Oh, perfect.
It started as a joke because sometimes when you hit stop, the funniest part is actually like the 3 minutes talking at the end of the show. And and it was just and so we just kind of kept, and so one time we just kept it in the show, and it was so funny that we just kind of kept doing that. And so now it's just, we end the show and then we don't know when the show's we don't know when we're going to stop. So it's fun. But yeah, I feel, I don't know if we're the best fantasy football show in the world, but I do feel confidently saying, I don't think there are many fantasy shows like ours. I think that feels super fair to say. So the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, if you want to check it out.
It does. Perfect. Thank you once again, Danny, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Sorry for about the 74,000 emails that we exchanged.
No, I thank you for being flexible. And I'm, glad. Look at you, 2 kids. Look at you powering through.
Now I'll go from here, and I will probably get about 12 minutes of sleep before the baby wakes up, and then we'll be doing it all again.
Perfect timing. Yeah, there you go. That's why you're so crook.
Exactly. See, look, he's an Aussie, fellas. He's an Aussie. Anyway, I'm going to do my sign out the way that you do it. Thank you, Danny. Thanks for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Goodbye, everyone.